Okay, so in favor of those who made it on time, welcome to yet another Amazon Web Services uh, workshop. My name is Gediminas, I'm from Cloudvisor, and today I'll be hosting this workshop called Amazon SageMaker, Train and Deploy Your First Machine Learning Model. We also have Mr. Luinas Tumosa joining us today and leading the workshop. He's a DevOps engineer from company Seca, who will be delivering a presentation later. Lorenas, are you here? Would you like to say hi to our audience?
Yeah, one moment. So I was muted. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, thank you for joining. Yeah, I'm happy to deliver this workshop, and yeah, we'll be starting my presentation after this introduction slides. So yeah, thank you for joining.
Awesome. I'm very happy to have you here today. And just before we drop in, let me just say a few words about Cloudvisor in case you haven't heard about it before. So Cloudvisor is an advanced tier AWS partner operating in the Baltics and the Nordics region. We work closely with AWS to support current and new Amazon Web Services users. Our main business line is AWS resale that is being used by a number of companies. So if your company is currently using AWS, I strongly suggest that you check out the benefit packages that we offer as a bonus for your AWS spend. Cloudvisor can help you save, optimize, and modernize your AWS infrastructure. And in addition, we try to do a lot of things to build the local AWS community, such as having workshops like this. Now, Lorenas will be your main speaker of the day, and my role will be to support him along the way. So before passing the screen to him, I want to mention 3 things regarding the workflow of today's event. First of all, your questions are very welcome. Put them either in the chat box or in the Q&A section, and we will go through them either during the presentation or at the end of the workshop if we have extra time. Secondly, the event is recorded, and we will share the recording with everyone tomorrow. And last but not least, if you still don't have a training account but would like to get access to one, reach out to events@cloudvisor.eu and we will give you access to you right away. I believe that's all from my side. Lorenas, are you ready to take over?
Yes, I am. 1 second.
Super. So I'll just stop sharing my screen and then we can switch.
Yes, probably you can see the slides right now.
Yep.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, yeah, my name is Lorenas, and I will be presenting this SageMaker workshop and help you to build, train, and deploy your first machine learning model. Yeah, so first for agenda, we'll start with a brief introduction, then we'll discuss about AWS machine learning stack, because as you know, like AWS has a bunch of services, and perhaps even from some use case, SageMaker is not the right service. So we will see what else AWS has to offer. Then a bit of information about SageMaker, and finally the workshop part where we can dive deep and yeah, hands-on try the SageMaker and see how it works. Okay, so a bit introduction about myself. So yeah, my name is Lorenas. So I work as DevOps engineer at Seca. And here in Vilnius, we built and maintain cloud-based body composition analysis software. Yeah, and I use AWS for 5 years, and also we're hiring front-end developers. So if you're interested, so feel free to reach out either by email or via yeah, Cloudvisor Slack would be also appropriate. That's it. Yeah, so briefly to discuss, like AWS has like this kind of high-level mission to put machine learning in the hands of every developer. So I think it was 2017 where AWS CEO told this is their goal, and since then they like started to release like a bunch of different machine learning services and AI services that are like useful for many different people. Yeah, and I think if you go to aws.com/machine learning, you will find a bunch of different services that you can use, and I think we can check it out actually. So here, if you go to machine learning, you can find all the different services that they have. And I think it's a good starting page if you're interested in AWS and machine learning. So you can find different services that you can use. And also there's learning resources as well. So this is really good. So if you're interested in learning more, there are also some free courses that you can attend, so which are quite good and quite informative as well. Okay, moving on. Yeah, so AWS has this like machine learning stack as mentioned previously. Yeah, so this changed a lot during the years. So it started that they have like application services, but now it seems that they call AI services, the services that you can use as basically an API endpoint. So these are usually you can just kind of add a machine learning or AI to your application without knowing anything about machine learning. So basically they are just API endpoints that you can use. For example, you can use like transcribe from transcribing tasks, then translate for translating text to different languages, and there are a lot of different use cases. Yeah, as well many other different services. And for machine learning, they have like SageMaker with all the different features and functionalities. And yeah, it's getting quite big and with many new functionalities every year. And perhaps it's even a bit confusing to use for the beginner because you have so many choices to choose from that you might not even understand what are the right tools for the job, basically. Okay, so firstly, to discuss about SageMaker, let's discuss the machine learning process, how it looks generally in the company. So first you get to kind of finding the business problem, then getting some data that you might find useful. So fetching the data. So it might be your sales data, it might be your marketing data, it might be your manufacturing data. Then the very big process is like, cleaning and preparation of data, because usually like algorithms require specific formats and you will usually have a lot of different values, like missing values in the data or data anomalies that you should clean. Then you go to training the model and evaluating the performance. So you pick the correct algorithm and then use find the algorithm that you want to use for machine learning. Train the model and see if it works for your case or not. And usually like this process is not really sequential, but you just go from one stage to training the model, then you might go again to cleaning data once more and preparing again, and then finally go to deploying to production, and then finally evaluating your model performance in production. And before the SageMaker, AWS found out from their customers that it took 6 to 18 months to go from training data to deploying the model to production. So being AWS, they decided to simplify the process by creating SageMaker. So what is SageMaker? So it's basically a data science platform that helps data scientists, developers to build, train, and deploy high quality machine learning models quickly by bringing together a broad set of capabilities for purpose built for machine learning, basically. So they bring all of various tools that are used for machine learning into one specific platform that you can use. Yeah, so with SageMaker, you go for you can basically have one tool for a whole pipeline for data science and machine learning. So you can go for preparing the data, basically cleaning the data, finding anomalies, finding biases in data, to building the model. SageMaker provides various built-in algorithms that you can use. You can also bring your own algorithm using Docker containers. After that, they provide distributed training, which is also very comprehensive. So you can train your machine learning model using instances, distributed training, even using spot instances for reduced pricing. And finally, AWS provides tools for deploying and managing your model. So you can monitor how your model performs, capture the data that your model is using, and continuously improve your machine learning process by using SageMaker. Okay, so this is the whole. So yes, SageMaker is just a service, but as I mentioned, it also includes a lot of different services that are part of SageMaker. So SageMaker ground truth is for putting the labels to data. You can so there are basically a bunch of different services, but actually the most important is like just this SageMaker Studio notebooks, because like this is the tool that most data scientists are familiar with, and you can only use this feature actually, and others are like kind of complementary services that can help you with your machine learning. But usually, yeah, you go by picking the notebook, and then you can either clean your data using Python and Python tools, or you can use SageMaker built-in data cleaning platform as well. And also you can either train model in Python or use and build your own containers, or you can use SageMaker built-in algorithms and with your data. Yeah, and deploying is also quite important. So SageMaker allows with one API call, like deploy a fully managed endpoint that your customers can call and get back the predictions of their inputs. Okay, and one other thing that's quite important to understand is that yeah, there's like two products. So SageMaker, so now it's like SageMaker Studio and SageMaker Notebook, which is kind of a bit strange. So like to understand, like SageMaker introduced was firstly launched in 2017, and at the end of 2019 they introduced SageMaker Studio. So yeah, Amazon currently recommends using SageMaker Studio, but there are a bunch of examples that are still in Notebook, but I think most of them work in Studio as well. So I think it's better to use Studio, and yeah, so this is just like some explanation how it looks like. So SageMaker Studio is fully featured IDE for data science, and it's much faster because usually when you launch Notebook, it takes a long time to spin the notebook. However, the disadvantage of Studio, I think, is like the Studio is quite complicated to use because it has so many different features that AWS provided that you might be confused. And for SageMaker Notebook, it's just like the tool that data scientists or Python developers are already used to, because you can also spin up Notebook in your own laptop and use it. Yeah, and you can also use like SageMaker API. You can call them from notebooks as well, but there are no additional features in the GUI interface. And when so SageMaker is also Studio is quite good as well because it allows sharing, and like using as a data science team, they can all share the same environment and share notebooks between each other. And with notebooks, it's not quite possible to do it easily. So I think for this workshop, we will use SageMaker Studio, but we will also I will show how to use notebooks as well. So we will launch them and see what the difference is. Yeah, so about the algorithms that we will use. Yeah, so I think they are not quite important for this because we'll just like, we will see SageMaker for more high level perspective, how to like interact with APIs. But basically we'll use XGBoost, which is gradient boosted algorithm, which like, supervised learning algorithm that kind of combines like a sample of different weaker models and creates a new model, and which is quite good when data set is in balance. And also linear learner, which is like simple machine learning, like the most simple machine learning algorithms that can be used either for binary classification or regression problems. Yeah, so to go to the workshop. So yeah, the first part is to kind of do the, so imagine we have a business problem. So in that case, we will work with banking data and to discuss whether a customer will subscribe to the product or not. So we will go to data collection, download the data set, then do some data preparation and cleaning. Finally some visualization analysis, and move on to feature engineering for this part. And later we move more like train the model, evaluate the model, and then deploy it to the SageMaker endpoint. Okay, so yeah, maybe we can jump to questions if there are any right now before I start the workshop.
Now, perhaps you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box or a Q&A box.
Okay, so yeah, we have no questions for now, so I can just jump to straight to the SageMaker console to see how it looks. So yeah, hopefully we're all able to gather your training accounts, and we'll do this workshop in yeah, Ireland region perhaps, because it's quite close, and it's it also has like more like newer services. They are like, when services are announced at AWS in Europe, the first region where the services are usually available are like this Ireland region. And we can see how the SageMaker platform looks like. So yeah, so as I mentioned here, we have like SageMaker Studio, but we also have Notebook where we can launch Notebook instances. So we'll start with Studio, and it already provides this quick start routine that will create the whole SageMaker environment with my data and stuff like this. So I can enter my name here. Also, I need to create like SageMaker role that is used to, yeah, that is passed to SageMaker to like read from S3 and stuff like this. So I need to click create a new role here. And here I can enter which buckets is SageMaker allowed to access in my AWS account. So in that case, since this is just a demo account, so I'm okay with allowing SageMaker to read from all the buckets, but usually like if it's your production account or any different account, you can just specify the bucket name here, and only these buckets will be able to use by SageMaker. So create a role. You can see that the role is created, and yeah, this is Jumpstart. It will like it will automatically provision like all the things that needs for SageMaker Studio. Okay. Submit. Okay, so since I have more BBC, but I think like I think this should be, yeah, I think in your case, because since this account was used for something else, that's why I receiving this BBC endpoint, so I will check it out. But
Just to jump in, I think not everyone can see the console on your screen.
Okay.
Maybe try and close down the window completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better.
Now you can see the screen almost.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so we can restart again. Yeah, because I think I was sharing, and it's a bit annoying because. One moment. Now it hidden the Zoom thing because it was blocking my screen, so I wasn't able to see anything. Okay, so again, like, yeah, so I will go to SageMaker Studio in the console again, like, yeah, let's close it and start again. So yeah, I'm in the Ireland region. I go to SageMaker. Yeah, and here, as I mentioned previously, I can see either notebook instances or SageMaker Studio instance. Yeah, so since Studio is like the most, yeah, this is like the newer service, I will use this one and enter my username. So just my name. And also, yeah, I mentioned I need to create a role here since I already have some roles, but I will still create a new one again. Yeah, and here I specify which S3 buckets SageMaker is allowed to access. So since it's just a demo account, I will select any S3 bucket, but you can specify, for example, here like my ML bucket, and it will only be able to access this bucket in that case. And finally, yeah, so select this quick start and submit. Yeah, and it will start launching start launching the studio, but it will take some time to get started. Okay, so in the meantime, we can also like look a bit more into console and see what else we have here. So yeah, dashboards, we can see like all the activity that we have here, and when we will start working, we'll see more resources here that will, because we are able to see like all our notebooks that we have, all our deployments, and all the models that we train and stuff like this. Yeah, so ground truth is the service that can be used for like labeling jobs. So for example, you have some data like yeah, like your digits, and you want to label this data set. So for example, you have some data sets that are without labels. You can use this, and you can either use your private workforce, your own company people, or you can use Amazon Mechanical Turk that will be able to, like, you have public workforce that will label the data set for you. Yeah, in Notebook, you can launch some instances as well. So the another difference between Notebook instances and SageMaker Studio is that with Notebook instance, you specify the Notebook instance type, like the compute power you have here. But with SageMaker Studio, it's actually it's able to launch like different instance types for different notebooks. So it's kind of, the whole studio is decoupled from the notebook instance provider, if that makes sense. And I can also launch here like yeah, notebook instance to see what the difference is. Yes, here I specified instance type. I'll pick the smallest, T2 medium. Since I already created role previously, I can use it again here. Yeah, if needed, I can also encrypt my notebook with KMS key. And also like select the VPC to launch it inside some VPC. And finally, I can connect some Git repositories. So for example, if we have some organizational code, we can just clone the Git repository and it will launch for all users. So yeah, let's create the user, and I can also provide some tags as well. Yeah, in training, I can see like all my training jobs and the algorithms that are provided by AWS. There is also hyperparameter tuning jobs. In the reference, I can see like which models I created, the endpoints and endpoint configurations. And I can also like deploy my models to like edge devices. So like stuff like Amazon Deep Lens or my own custom like devices where I can deploy machine learning models. Okay, so let's go back to SageMaker Studio and see if it's already created or not. Okay, so it's finally already here. So we can open the studio. Yes, it's loading, but hopefully it will be ready soon.
let's use this as a quick reminder that you can submit your questions in the chat box or a Q&A box for us.
Yeah, and we can discuss more about like SageMaker for now. Like, yeah, so as I mentioned, Studio is quite good because you can also add like more users to your SageMaker, and can be used by many different people. While notebooks, they're usually like used by one person. So I can add new user, and he can also, she use Studio notebook. And here you can, as you saw previously, like, yeah, when I create Studio, I don't mention any instance type that I need to create, because Studio, like, yeah, it's kind of decouples the machine learning compute power and Jupyter Lab basically power. So basically you can see when I launch the instance what will happen. So yeah, I think it's finally loaded, so we can check it out. Yeah, so you can see like, yeah, this is kind of full feature ID.
Like, hallelujah.
Thought it was a question, but not. Okay, so yeah. Yeah, so the very cool part is this, yeah, SageMaker Jumpstart actually, which is quite a new feature, which can help you to build like specific machine learning solutions for your application use cases. So this not only like, yes, this not only creates SageMaker, but also like many different AWS services to kind of hold. And so they provide like this diagram that you can use with CloudFormation template. So for example, in this case, you can use it for fraud detection in financial transactions. And if you're interested, and if you see this can work, you can like, yeah, launch the solution and see and learn more about it, how it works, and kind of adapt it to your needs. And there's a bunch of different examples that uses not only like, yeah, not only SageMaker, but also many different AWS services. So for example, in this case, you have some data, yeah, for handwritten recognition. You upload your data to S3 bucket, then use Amazon SageMaker ground truth to label your data. So you can either label like some handwritten digits into text, and use SageMaker training job to train the model, and finally have the endpoint that can be used for basically, yeah, recognizing customer data.
Lorenas, if I could just jump in with a quick question from the audience. We're asking if there's a requirement to create a new VPC account, a training account, actually.
Requirement to create a new VPC?
Yes.
I think it shouldn't be any requirement to create a new VPC, because you can just launch it into default VPC. As here, I also used like this. 1 second, I will just here. Yeah, so I launched this using like this default VPC in my account, and I think you should be able to do it too. If it doesn't work, just let me know and I can probably help with some troubleshooting. But yeah, this is like the default VPC, and I didn't need to create any new VPCs. Just the problem was that in this account there was two VPCs, the one that was created by someone, and that's why I needed to create a new one. Not create a new one, but like select the VPC. But usually you don't even need to select VPC. Okay, so yeah, here in SageMaker, I can also have like this launcher where I can launch, like, for example, like terminal window here. And I can like use like bash commands to see. And here I can reload the window and I can see like the window is created here. Okay, so the tool that we're going to use is like Git. So I have this Git repository that I prepared for this workshop. Okay, so I will share it with you in a moment. Where's my Zoom? Okay. Okay, here you go. So this is like the Git repository. Hopefully you received the link. And I can use this tool here, Git, and clone the repository.
Lorenas, it seems that not everyone is getting this virtual private cloud properly. We say that to create a VPC, choose Open VPC console and turn to the Studio console to finish setting up Studio.
Okay, so maybe I'll try to move to different region and see maybe like the region that was not set up and see how it will work here. Okay, so
Please do.
okay, let's try Ohio region and see if I will be able to launch Studio, because yeah, I tested in multiple accounts, but I never had this VPC problem, so I'll check it out. SageMaker Studio. Okay, so I will remove this row.
Maybe we can use the ID provided by Christos. If you go to the chat box yourself, it says AWS dash workshops 2022.
Yeah, so maybe the issue was that perhaps when you launch the studio, you have to select this quick setup. 1 second again. I'll go to new region again. So yeah, when you go to SageMaker Studio, select this quick start, and then in that case you don't need to specify any VPC settings because it automatically provisions all the needed resources, if that makes sense for you. Yeah, so you just need to specify your username and IAM role, but don't click the standard setup and just click submit, and you will be yeah, created for you. Yeah, if there are any other problems, we can perhaps even share some screenshots. So maybe if I see some screenshots, it might be better to understand the problem. Okay, so I'll try to continue. So yeah, so let's go and clone this repository for SageMaker workshop. Yeah, and SageMaker, like being the full feature IDE, it provides like really this nice, this nice UI for like either initializing an empty repository or cloning the repository that I already have. So here I will enter my repository name. So yeah, just copy the URL, github.com, load this SageMaker workshop. Hopefully you received it in the chat and we're able to use it. And click clone. And I can see here that yeah, Git is cloning my repository and it's already done. Okay, so I can enter the URL. Yeah, and here I have like the first we'll start with this SageMaker marketing. So I have like 2 notebooks. One is to do, which is basically without
Lorenas,
yeah.
Excuse me, I think I'm gonna have to stop you a little bit. If you could go to the chat box, some people are falling behind and are struggling to getting their accounts. If perhaps you could check the chat box and help them get on board so we're all on the same page, all right?
That makes sense, yeah, because I wasn't
Yeah,
sure.
maybe others can grab a quick drink in the meantime.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Thank you.
okay, let's check the chat box. So I'll stop sharing my screen. I see, like, yeah, so some accounts are missing the default VPC. Okay, so from my side, I think in the chat, it looks like everyone else is done with creation of VPC and it's working for them. So I don't know, like, should I wait for someone else or? So yeah, just if you're still like struggling with something, just please send the message in chat so I can help you or we can wait for you.
Okay, shall we go ahead?
Okay, so yeah, I think everyone is done as well. Okay, so yeah, hopefully everyone were able to enter SageMaker Studio Console and clone the repository. So just to repeat again, you just go to this Git tool, clone a repository, and then enter the URL from the chat. And it will create a folder here for you that you can use for, for machine learning. So yeah, so in that case, since I know that, yeah, some of you might not be able to follow that fast, so I created like SageMaker to do, which is like kind of working directory that we'll work on. And this is the complete file that you can use as an example with everything working. So yeah, this is just a bit, this file is a bit just modified from AWS itself examples. Okay, so here I can select the basically Python kernel, and this is like the Jupyter notebook thing, and usually like this is the prepare one, Python free data science kernel with like, yeah, AWS installed all the required data science tools here. So this is the kernel that most people would probably use. And for example, if you have like some different algorithms that you want to use, like TensorFlow or PyTorch or MXNet, you can select different kernels here as well. So let's click with this Python free data science and click select. Yeah, so probably most of you are familiar with Python and Jupyter Lab, but basically, yeah, Jupyter Lab is just like kind of Python tool that is used mostly by data scientists, and it allows to combine both code, markdown, and text. So it's quite good for experimentation with data because you can play with the data and have some experiments notes here. And also after you are done, you can export it either like you can export notebook as either HTML, even LaTeX, Markdown, PDF, and share with your colleagues as well. And with SageMaker, you also can share it with your data science team members as well. Okay, so in this, in this demo, we'll be kind of experimenting with direct marketing campaign. So we'll use the bank dataset from public repository, and we'll try to predict whether customers will subscribe to the product or not after the marketing. Yeah, so firstly, we'll start by data preparation and cleaning and exploration. And then we'll go to training the model and deploying the model to the SageMaker. Okay, so here we have like this to do that we need to do. So one of the things like with SageMaker is that actually it provides with with these data science kernels, but some modules might be outdated sometimes and stuff like this. So perhaps you need to update some packages, or yeah, you can also like use it to install some additional packages or update packages. So we'll try to update the pandas version here. Let's enter Conda, because it uses Anaconda scientific Python distribution for a package manager, and you can install or update new packages here. So let's enter Conda update. Okay, and before we start, let's just check it out if it actually started, because when I open a notebook, it actually launches an instance in the background, but I think it's not already started, so we'll see. Yeah. So I also need to wait some time until SageMaker creates a new instance here. But hopefully it won't take so long. Yeah, in the meanwhile, maybe we can check if everyone is following, or maybe there are also some people stuck behind. So if you have some questions, just please raise them in the chat.
I don't think there are any questions at the moment. So maybe you can just give it a minute to catch up and then you can go.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Yeah, so as you can see like this slide bar here. And here I open like, yeah, in this case, I can see the running instances. So basically, when I open the notebook instances here, AWS in the background launch a new instance. Like this is MLT3 medium with like 2 virtual CPUs and 4 GB of RAM, and launches this kernel as a new like Jupyter app, and launch my notebook here as well. And since, for example, if I'm not happy with this, I can also update my instance type as well. So for example, here I can select, yeah, these different instance types. So this is fast launch instance type, which I can launch a bit faster, but I can just deselect this field and select any instance I want. So you can see like there's like really big instances, but probably don't use them in your training or accounts. Just stick with what we have right now, and yeah, it should be able to work, because actually in that case, as I mentioned, because SageMaker uses containers, so you only use like this this instance with 2 CPUs and 4 GB of RAM is only used for actually like, yeah, launching the notebook. But for training and deploying the model, you can specify different instance types that we will do later.
And we have one question. Could those instances be seen also in the EC2 service?
I think let's check, because I think previously it was not possible, but we can check. 1 second. Probably not. We'll then go to EC2 and see if it's there or not. EC2. Yeah, it's same like with database instances, so or like any other. So since these instances are managed by SageMaker, you don't see them here, but actually you can see them in SageMaker console as here somewhere. Go to dashboard. Yeah, notebook instances. Oh, this is not the right one, but dashboard. I think there should be some applications that we have, but okay, so it seems that they are only accessible from the SageMaker Studio itself. So yeah, and you can manage them through here. So for example, if when I am done with my job, I will need to shut down this instance, because if I just leave the Jupyter lab by closing the web page, the instance will unfortunately keep on running and consuming money. So it's quite important to remember to shut down your instances after you're done with your work. Okay, so yeah, let's start with updating the pandas package to the newest version. Yeah, and it will just, okay, so I will forgot to say, but you can either run the cell by using this command, so run the cell, or you can enter just shift enter and it will execute the cell for you. And for example, if it's some notebook that you want to like run all cells, you can just click run all cells and it will like kind of execute all the cells within your notebook. Yeah, and I can see that I had like the version pandas update. Yeah, so I will need to update this version. So yeah, it will update the pandas version in my package. It's done. Okay, yeah, so next let's go by importing SageMaker and preparing them the like required S3 buckets and other things. So I will enter import SageMaker. And then, yeah, so I will need to select the S3 bucket where SageMaker will store the data and stuff like this. So I'll just let's use bucket equals. And you can also use autocomplete as well. And I'll have like prefix for my data, prefix equals. Yeah, and I will also need to define the IAM role that SageMaker would use for basically working with S3s. So I will import Boto3, which is like Python package for AWS. And yeah, from here. Get execution role. And I will enter this role equals execution role. So basically, in this step, I will just I am preparing some S3 bucket that SageMaker will use, and also selecting the role for SageMaker to use because it will need to read from S3, and for S3 to read from like prior S3 buckets, you need some role that is allowed to read from S3. So let's execute this cell. Yeah, and this is like a normal. This is not like a warning sign, but since we use the default role, it's completely fine. Yeah, and then we'll need to import some required Python packages to use. And also, let's double check that our pandas version is correct one. So we have pandas 1.24. Okay, so finally, we need to get our data set. So we use like this direct marketing bank data so in SageMaker you can also execute shell commands by simply inputting this character before the command, and it will do the shell command. So for example, I can create a new cell as well and enter this and ls, and I can see all my files by using the shell command, and I can then delete the cell if I don't need it again. Yes, we will download the data and then extract the zip file basically. And here I can also see that our file should be as well here, banks additional, and I have like full CSV, name, text, and additional data CSV. Okay, so let's read the data right now by using pandas data frame. So data equals dot. So we'll use pandas to read CSV. And I will also need to enter the input path for the data. Additional. .csv. And let's just set some options for pandas to yeah, not mess up with our Jupyter notebook. Okay, and I can display my data by using this data command. Okay, so here you can see like that IPython Jupyter like display my data here, and I can see like all here. I can see the kind of names of the features for like customer age, customer job, marital status, education, whether he defaulted or not, housing, loan, contact, when it was contacted, and many other different features that can be used for this machine learning. And finally, I have like the value that we'll need to predict whether customers subscribe it or not, which is in the final field of this data set. Yeah, so you can see like, yeah, we have like 41,000 of customers with 20 features for each customer. The features are mixed. Yes, so you can see some of them are categorical. So like, yeah, with contact details have either telephone or cellular, and others are like numerical. For example, in that case, I have like duration, which is probably duration of the call in either probably seconds. So yeah, it's 261, 149, and then campaign number as well. And here you can see like more description about the data, which can be done by, yeah, so yeah, we have age, customer is age, job type of the job customer do, marital status, education status, has credit in default, yes or no, has house loan, yes or no, has a personal route, and then also we have like past direct marketing contacts, campaign information, yeah, external environmental factors, and finally our target variable, has the customer subscribed or not, yes or no. So yeah, so this is like kind of some code that data science will probably use. So in that case, yeah, let's not go too much into depth of what this code does, just to basically understand it. Plots the variables, and usually like data scientists, they're able to understand like, and by like, yeah, plotting and showing the data, they are able to like understand which data is not needed, which attributes can be removed, which attributes are more important, which attributes are like correlating between each other, and by that you can do some feature analysis and feature engineering. Yeah, so I can see like, for example, like by our data, like how many people were contacted by cellular phone and how by land phone. So we can see that 63% were contacted by cellular and 46.5 by telephone. Yeah, and these are just like some statistics of the data that can be helpful to understanding which features are like good and which features are bad. Yeah, and here we can have some statistics. So yeah, almost 90% of the values like have target variable as no. So in that case, we can make a conclusion that data set is quite imbalanced, because yeah, so even with, so for example, in that case, even if we train our model and our model always says no, it will be 90% accurate as well, because since 90% people are not subscribers, then if it will, and then if our algorithm would always say no, to all values. That will also mean that it's 90% accurate. So in that case, we need our accuracy to be more than 90%, and perhaps even care about like different metrics like precision and recall as well. Yeah, so we can also see like some different things that can be analyzed and seen from this data. So we can see, like, for example, that like p days, it's almost for all values is 999, and for some it's like this. So in that case, it uses like in how long customer was previously contacted, I think. So in this high value 999 probably means that customer was not contacted before. Yeah, and we can also see like the customers were mostly contacted in which months and stuff like this. Okay, so now let's do like this, like correlation between features and the target value that we are attempting to predict. Yeah, so we can see like if there are some different cases here, but probably, yeah, since I'm not a data scientist, it's a bit harder for me to interpret these values, I think. But you can see some graphs of people that subscribe it and people that not subscribe. So from age perspective, it's kind of similar. Yeah, so for PDs, I think like, yeah, so people who were contacted previously, it seems that more people subscribe than people that, yeah, so if people were not contacted, sorry, if people were contacted previously, they have more people that subscribed as well. Yeah, so we have some we also have some like things to think about the data as well. Yeah, so now let's display the correlation matrix here. And I can see like all these features and how they correlate between each other. And usually, like if you have features that correlate between each other with like very high correlation coefficient, it's usually bad because it says that these features show the same things basically. Yeah, but from this case, we see like there's that features like really widely there are no like big correlation between these features, I think. But yeah, we'll also do some data processing as well. So first, like, yeah, let's create a new feature, which means like, yeah, no previous contact. And we will see like where PDs is equal to 999. That means that customer was not contacted previously. And if it's not, then he was contacted or she was contacted previously. Yeah, and also we create a new feature called not working. And we will see like in our data set where our job is equal to student, retired or unemployed. We'll create this new feature. Sorry, I need a bit of water. Yeah, let's do this. Yeah, and finally, let's drop some features that were found to be like not needed. So it will drop the duration of the call and other features that are found to not be needed for this data model. Yeah, so after dropping, I can also show how the data looks like. So I can just click data again. Let's go again, model data. Yeah, and I can see that this data is now a bit more processable. Instead of categories, I have like this encoding. So yeah, so this is quite important for machine learning. It usually you need to transform from categorical variables to these hot encodings. That means that, for example, in that case, you have job management. So this feature represents whether the customer works in management field. And for people who not work in management, they have the value of 0. And people who work in management, they have value of 1. But the final feature is still like, the subscription. Why no and why yes, whether customers subscribe it or not. Okay, so now let's do the final thing is to split the data into training and validation set. And we'll use numpy split function for that. Okay, let's enter. Maybe I forgot a comma here. Okay, so now I will split my data into train, test, and validation data set, basically. So yeah, what it means, machine learning, basically. So most of the time you want to like split your data set into training data set that is used for training machine learning model, then testing data set that is used to kind of test the model when it's training, like how well it trained, and also the validation data set, which is like the final test, where you use your final part of the data set just to blindly test the model and see how it performs with this validation data set. Yes, we'll take the 70% of the data set and we'll use it for testing. Yeah, so for training, then 20% for validation and 10% for test data. Yeah. And then finally, let's yeah, we need to convert our dataset into the model that SageMaker XGBoost container expects. So basically, yeah, in this case, since this is prepared workshop, but in your case, when you're working with some models, you can just go Google SageMaker XGBoost. And here, like, there is like different supported algorithms, and you can find how to use it, what it expects as hyperparameters, how to use its constructors, yeah, what input paths to inspect and stuff like this. So this is kind of important. And since we use like SageMaker built as algorithm, we need to convert our data into the format that SageMaker supports. Yeah, so so let's do that as well. So yeah, so that's what we need to do is basically drop the drop the y0 and ys, and then put it in the beginning of the data set. And I will also write this to S3 as well. So also, yeah, if we go to S3, we can also see like how it looks like, because the data is here and we can see it as well. Okay, so here I can see the SageMaker. Yeah, probably since we are, yeah, so in your case, just look at the bucket with SageMaker and then region name that you are working on. So in that case, EU Central 1. And here I can see like this. Probably, wait, let me check again. This is Ireland and SageMaker XGBoost, and this one. Check again where we save our data. You can check where we save our data using this like prefix that we have at the beginning of the document. We can print bucket names here. That's this is the bucket, and SageMaker demo XGBoost DM. Yeah, I was in the wrong bucket. Yeah, and here I can see my train and validation data sets. And if I want, I can download this and see this data file. Okay, probably the best is to download, and I can use it locally as well if I want. So or either open with text editor and see like, yeah, this is just like a bunch of text with features as well. Yeah, so let's go back to some slides. So yeah, so as I mentioned, now we're in the first part. So we did like some data collection. So in that case, since this was just like a very simple beginner notebook, but and the real data, it will be like a bit much complicated process, but we went from collecting the data to downloading the data and saving it to the location in S3. we did some data preparation, visualization, and feature engineering, and we saved our kind of final data set into S3. And now we can utilize it with SageMaker. So in that case, we'll go to this part where we do like model training, parameter tuning, evaluate our model, and then finally deploy it to endpoint that we can use. Yeah, so let's go back to the code, and probably now is a good time to check if everyone is on the same page and if everyone is following the workshop, or if someone needs some additional help.
Well, I don't see any questions popping up, so maybe if you have any questions, that's a good chance to put them in the chat box or in the Q&A box.
Yeah, that will be good.
Go ahead.
Yeah, otherwise we'll start with model training. So as I mentioned previously, we use like this instance and this notebook for only preparation of our data. And now we need to prepare the trainer for basically the data and model to launch into XGBoost container. So since SageMaker platform is fully containerized, so basically we need to select the container that we want to use and then input some parameters for XGBoost container that we want to use. So let's do that as well. Okay, so SageMaker provides some like APIs to get this container image. So I can enter container equals SageMaker URIs. Yeah, and if you want to use autocomplete in Jupyter Lab, you can just use tab and it will try to autocomplete something for you. So this is also quite useful. And then click retrieve. And then select region. Then I can enter the machine learning like algorithm or framework that I want to use. So I select XGBoost. And version, I can like point it to a specific version of the algorithm that I want to use, or I can simply select latest and it will get the latest container image from my notebook. Okay, some errors here. Okay, yeah, type. Yeah, then I need to load that test train and validation data from S3. So let's do that as well. Yeah, in SageMaker, basically you just specify the data location in S3, and it will load the data dynamically when the model training starts. So you don't need to like basically. So in case like when you work with SageMaker, so SageMaker doesn't work with local data because you can see we have local data here as well. But for that, you need to specify the data in S3 to be able to use it. So let's do that as well, because we already updated our data to S3 previously, so we're able to use that as well. SageMaker inputs. Inputs. Yeah, and it's very important to enter the correct content type here because SageMaker works by, so some algorithms can work with some specific data types, and in that case, or some of them can work with multiple data types, but they need to know which data type you provide. So in that case, you can just specify this content type CSV. Yeah, and I will also do the same for validation data, basically. Let's copy this line here, copy. Frame, but in that case, is validation. Okay, so we get the input training input and validation data location as well. Okay, so finally, let's do some training of the model. Yeah, so if you want to know, so as I mentioned, when you use like this built-out algorithms, you can see in this SageMaker developer guide, you can find what commands do you need to use and what hyperparameters you need to provide in order to train your SageMaker model. And this documentation is quite specific, and it shows you like, all the required parameters for the model. So, but in that case, let's go to our case. Okay, so let's first select the SageMaker session. Okay, so now I need to provide the required parameters. So firstly, I specified the container that I want to use. In that case, we have like this XGBoost container that we found earlier. So let's click container. Then I need to provide the role for the job, and we are already in the beginning of this workshop. We run some commands to get execution role that I can pass to SageMaker training job as well. Oops. So let's go and select this role. Next, I need some instance types. So I can either train my machine learning model on one instance or multiple instances. So, some algorithms supports distributed training, some of them don't support. So you have to also read the documentation for algorithm, and then I specify the instance type. We are like, they're also like specific, so they are like similar to regular instances, but they have like this ML prefix before the instance type. So for example, but you also need to check the model documentation because not all instance types are supported. So for example, if you try to run this instance of not supported instance type, you will receive some errors from SageMaker, and I will show how it looks at them later. Finally, I need to select output path where I want to output my training model. So let's again output to a stream. And I have this to pass the SageMaker session as well. Session equals session. Okay, let's create a new field, and then also we need to specify some hyperparameters for XGBoost algorithm. Set and I can actually copy some hyperparameters to see what they have here. Yeah, so let's see how it looks with this thing. Let's create the dictionary here, and then let's see how to use it as well, because I don't remember. So you can check how to use them. Hyperparameters. Yeah, you can just you are using estimator. You can just pass this dictionary object as hyperparameters as well. So this is quite good. Let's show this. Well, I have to pass in here. Okay. And then I can select this XGBoost.fit. And then I specify my training dataset and validation dataset. So let's do that. Train. Train and yeah, and what will this command do? It will basically launch a new instance with MLM for X large data instance type. It will read my data from this S3 location, and it will try to train my model using these hyperparameters. So let's see if it will work or not. Okay, so starting the training job. Yeah, and the really cool part about this, I think I forgot to mention this, is that you only pay for this instance on basically while it's running and training your machine learning models. So in that case, for example, if you can understand, like if you have some developers working on different machine learning algorithms, so previously they need to launch like this really big and powerful machines, but by using SageMaker, they only pay for training jobs. So this is kind of helpful. And yeah, so we can also see, like, I think it will show how much time it took to train the model and for how many seconds were we built. So I think the training job should be pretty fast actually, because it's a quite small data set as well.
Let's use this as a reminder that you can post your questions in the chat or in Q&A box.
Yes, so you can see right now, like the feedback from is quite good because it provides like what's happening. So I see like my instance is launching, then kind of AWS is preparing for training my data set, and we'll see what happens after our endpoint is after our model is trained. But it shouldn't take still a long time, actually. Yeah, in the meantime, I can just go back to the SageMaker console, and now we can see that actually we have some new things available here. So we have like training jobs and processing jobs here. So this training job is actually running for like, yeah, so I can see like my job is running and it is training on my data set, and I can see basically all the parameters that I specified and what happened here. So yeah. And if you need to troubleshoot, you can just use this as a guide point, basically. And you can even like, yeah, view some logs, metrics and stuff like this. So let's check it out, what's happening here with Cloudvisor metrics. But so it seems there are like, yeah, no instance log available right now. We have some logs as well. Okay, so actually we see some errors. Oh, I see. So we probably. Okay, so I think the problem was with error function. It was not what they expected. This is not the right Jupyter notebook. This one is the probably correct. I'm not sure why. Okay. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, so I can see that some exception happened. So I think it was because of this objective, which is like the error function to use. Probably in that case, we need like logistic regression because let's train our model again. Okay, so maybe since it will take some time to train, we can yeah, already like prepare the code for hosting the model. So again, like since this train, so yeah, now after we'll be done with the training, we'll have the model, but we'll need to host it in order to make some be able to create predictions against this model. So let's launch the model XGB predictor. XGB -deploy. And yeah, I will deploy and yeah, for deployment, you can also specify how many instances do you want. Either you want spot instances or on-demand instances. So you can select the best instance type that are applicable to you. So I can, yeah, in that case, I will just select initial instance count, type count, initial. Equals 1. So I want one instance, the instance type. Equals to ML for X large. Yes, again, like yeah, not all instance types can be used for all models. So you also need to kind of find models that are that are supported by this instance type, and you can find it as well here, like we have model hosting probably. Let's see, model hosting in the inference, and let's check. Yeah, I can't find it now, but you can also find like which models are supposed to be hosted on which endpoints, basically. Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to see what's happening. Hopefully this time it will work. Either we'll need to debug our code again. So it's, it might be, this part might be a bit annoying sometimes, because if you are working with some new algorithm and you need to understand how it works, so it might take you some time to find all the required instance types to use, all the either hyperparameters are good or stuff like this. So yeah, let's check again how it looks into SageMaker training jobs. Yeah, we can see this job failed. This one, oh, actually it failed again. I think that's what I selected or not. Objective. Binary logistic. Yeah. Okay, so sorry about that. I think like I cannot type this in. Yeah, I was not able to sort. So instead of binary, I typed something else. So let's try again. Yeah, and if you're following this workshop and you already like did the training part, you can proceed with hosting part, and then you can see like how does it look when it tries to predict some data.
Lorenas, if you could check your objective, Andrew thinks there might be a typo.
Yeah, correct. So yeah, there was a typo, so I think I fixed it already.
Yeah.
After 2 tries, I fixed it.
Better later than never.
Yeah. So let's go back to the training jobs again. See that, yeah, it's again in progress. Yeah, let's try again. Maybe we already have some logs, but probably not yet. So probably third time, hopefully it will work this time. Or otherwise, we can just go to this, like, yeah. So remember, if you are like, yeah, probably if you stuck somewhere, you can just, yeah, check this file. Yeah, direct marketing, which is like full file with everything completed. Okay, so it seems like training already started. So it will try to train the model. Okay, perfect. Yeah, we can see like the training block, what's happening. So basically, yeah, it creates some like decision trees, and then yeah, you can read more about like this, how XGBoost algorithm work, but it's quite simply algorithm, but it works quite good for like these imbalanced data sets as well. Okay, so finally we can deploy our machine learning model to the endpoint. Yeah, this part will also take some time because it will need to copy the model and create instance and HTTP endpoint that we can call. Yeah, and it's also like with HTTP endpoint, it's also not quite straightforward because you need to kind of, before sending the data to the model, you need to prepare some data, and then probably you need to split the data into some like batches to do some batch prediction. And yeah, we also have some code that we will run to basically check and test the model by predicting it with validation dataset. Okay, so we can just go back to the SageMaker console while it's running and select the dashboard and see in which part of the process we are. Yeah, so we can see like we have one notebook, one training job that is completed, one model that we have, and one endpoint, but it still should be, it's created, but still not in progress. So we're able to launch this, and then we can launch this and use it for predictions. Yeah, I think we can also talk about like, yeah, now about the future. So probably we won't do this part because it will also take some time, and yeah, it's probably not a good idea to wait for everyone to like, yeah, just run through some code. Yeah, but after we're done with our model, we can also like use this hyperparameter tuning, because for example, in case here with SageMaker, we specify some hyperparameters to use, but actually SageMaker has some hyperparameter tuning step that can find the optimal set of hyperparameters. So basically what it does, it trains your machine learning model with different set of hyperparameters, and using the algorithm, it finds the optimal set of hyperparameters for your model. So in that case, yeah, because these things, it's not quite straightforward, and you might not know what exactly do you need to put here. So we can just use this hyperparameter tuning job in order to, yeah, and here you can specify like minimum child weight, and you can specify the parameter and the values you want to test. And it will test which basically hyperparameters creates the best model, and it will use these hyperparameters for your model. Yeah, and later after this workshop, don't forget to clean up. So you can like, yeah, delete endpoint here. So it will delete the endpoint, and this one will also delete the tuner. And like, yeah, if you run this optional step, you'll also need to delete the additional endpoint that the hyperparameter job will create as well. Yeah, so let's check it out, how it's going with costing. Yeah, it's still running. Yeah, and I think in the repository, I also provided additional notebook for you, which is MNIST dataset. Let's go to data science kernel as well. Yeah, so this MNIST was just like the dataset for handwritten digits. Okay, this is not images. This is how it looks like. So this is a set of digits. Yeah, and this is also like some SageMaker algorithm to help you to basically can check this notebook out and test it how it works, because it uses a linear learner and trains the model to recognize the handwritten digits. So you can use it and check it out after this workshop in your own time, basically. Okay, yeah. I'm still waiting. Yeah, surprisingly, like creating like a new endpoint takes longer than to actually train the machine learning model, because if you look, it trained like really fast. It only took 1 minute to train the whole machine learning model, but for hosting it takes longer time. Yeah, I think I also need to mention, like, yeah, with SageMaker, when you create an endpoint, you can also like select this data capture settings, and you can basically capture all the input data. Basically, so yeah, so for example, you have like public endpoint where customers can call and get the predictions. You can also capture all the input data, and then later, if you can see, like, for example, if some data was classified not correctly, you can later use this data to retrain your model. Or for example, you can use like capture this data, then use SageMaker ground truth to label this data again, and then train your model to become even better as well. Okay, finally is the SageMaker here. So yeah, let's try to get some predictions. So yeah, we'll run some preparation functions as well. Yeah, and now let's do the test data to predict. Okay, so we can see that. So this is like, yeah, this like confusion matrix. We can see that there were, yeah, in here we can see prediction and actual value. So we can see like there was 3,680 actual zeros. Yeah, actual where it was actually not subscriber and it was predicted not subscriber. It was 51 cases where it was predicted that the customer is subscriber, but he or she was not subscriber. And it was 107 cases where the actual value was subscriber and it was predicted not subscriber, and yeah, 343 cases where it predicted that it was not subscriber, but it was actually subscriber. Yeah, I think like probably we're not going to execute this now, but you can also like, yeah, run this as well, or you can execute it. So to basically tune and find like, yeah, the appropriate hyperparameter. So now it will train the model again, but now with all the different parameter times, and it will take a bit longer because, yeah, now it's kind of executing a bit more jobs as well. But we can train and create a new endpoint with tuned hyperparameters, and then you can see if the new model was better or it was actually worse than previous model. And by doing that, you can basically like run this like kind of A/B testing your models. So basically run multiple models at the same time and see which model works better for your customer, for like real world use case. Okay, I think like, sorry. Yeah, as I mentioned, like that's probably it. So if you have some time, just look into this MNIST data set. Yeah, and also in SageMaker console, as mentioned previously, like yeah, AWS machine learning. Yes. Yeah, this page is quite good because you can access this like AWS machine learning blog with really cool things about machine learning, like articles. And also there are some free resources here where you can actually learn about machine learning. So if you go to learn, and they have like this machine learning university and this machine learning training where you can train and prepare for like either machine learning certifications or just learn more about how to work with SageMaker and other AWS AI services. Okay, so yeah, if we can go back to the slides because I'm nowhere there. Yeah, we go back to the slides. We can see like in this case, we went through the whole kind of machine learning process, but yeah, we didn't do much of like monitoring and debugging of our machine learning model. This is probably the objective for the future, but we went to like getting the data, preparing and cleaning the data, doing some feature engineering, and then we save the prepared data set and use it for SageMaker to train our machine learning model, and finally we deployed it and used for predictions. Yeah, so I think that's all from my part. So maybe if you have some more questions, it will be good to hear them now.
Well, thank you very much, Laurinas, for your workshop. Yeah, if you have any questions, then please drop them up in the chat box now. If not, then this workshop has been recorded. We're going to share it with you as soon as tomorrow. So you can definitely rewind back and check something if there was missing, or I think you can ping Laurinas directly. As we also have a Slack channel. So make sure that you join it, and then this is how we build this community around AWS and Cloudvisor. And last but not least, I would also like to invite you to join AWS and Cloudvisor's joint team at the AWS Game Day. It's an interactive team-based learning exercise designed to give players a chance to put their skills to the test in a real-world, gamified, risk-free environment. It's happening on the 17th of June for 4 hours, and together we will work to help a company unicorn. So rentals migrate off slow suboptimal legacy services and onto a faster and more reliable set of microservices. You can find the registration link in the chat. If it's not there, it will be posted there just in a second. And what I can say about Game Day, it's a fun way to learn, practice your skills, and bond with the team. So I highly encourage you to join. Well, that's it. Thank you guys very much. Thank you for being with us. There are more webinars coming towards your end shortly. Once you leave the call, please make sure that you fill in the survey, because we really appreciate your feedback, and it's going to help us grow and make most webinars more relevant to you. So thank you very much once again, and see you next time.
Thank you. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach me over Slack or email. I will be happy to help you. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.